Hello, my name is Jimmy, and this is probably the most interesting Ford F-150 you can get today. And it's the most interesting F-150 because this is the PowerBoost. And what that means is instead of an EcoBoost, which it actually is still basically an EcoBoost, it's a 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6, just a turbo V6, but paired with it, a hybrid technology, giving this vehicle excellent fuel economy, something that basically no one else can touch. I mean, hybrid pickups aren't new. GM made one about 17 years ago, and Ford, kind of like Apple, they took that technology and made it work better in a more simple package, and honestly, better marketing with the wording on this truck, it just makes it stand out. The F-150 comes in many variations. This is the Canadian spec Lariat with about $20,000 worth of options on this, making this truck as tested $83,615. And if you're saying that's quite a bit of money, well, you haven't seen the truck market because $83,000 is about average. Ford gives you a plethora of style, trim, and options to make the F-150 truly yours. From the base, more fleet style XL trim to the off-road ready Raptor, or even the luxurious Limited. You can choose and pick whatever you like. There are also 3 cab and bed configurations, so you can really choose the one that fits your needs. But let's talk about styling first. This is the 14th generation of the F-150. It looks very similar to the last one, but they changed a lot of stuff, not only on the outside, but a lot of the internals, and it made it quite a bit better. Let's talk about the front end here. Distinctive Ford F-150 grille, and I love these headlamps. This LED daytime running light goes from the top all the way down to the bottom of the fog lamps, and they just look great. Behind this massive grille, you do have active shutters to help with fuel efficiency. Off to the side, we do have 20-inch wheels, but of course, at the options box, you can check whatever type of style wheels you really want. I love this fender badge right here. It's definitely better than previous, and it has to say PowerBoost right on the bottom. Automatic deployable running boards on the bottom, so easier ingress as well as egress from the vehicle. I mean, overall the truck looks great, but there's something special and it's back here. And what's special are these taillights. Yes, they're LED and they're very pretty, but inside this is, well, it tells you how much load you're putting into the vehicle itself. This truck unfortunately doesn't have that option, but when you increase the payload, there's lights in here to tell you exactly, well, how much load you're putting onto your truck. And if you're over the payload maximum, that is a very smart idea. Obviously, being a trucker today, I do have a damp tailgate, but it's so much more than that. This is a power tailgate. So not only does it go down, it also goes back up with a press of a button. I mean, I'm sure there's truck owners out there thinking this is absolutely useless. I'm not a truck owner, so I think that's fabulous. That's amazing. But of course, it has the workbench on here, so there's a measuring tape across, you get the built-in step ladder, you get these little hooks here so you can clamp onto whatever you need, and basically it's a workspace. It's smart, and it is a workspace. Because of this powertrain, you can get the optional generator that's on board, and on the side here I got 420 20 amp outlets along with a 240 volt 30 amp outlet here, which means you're able to plug in compressors and even a welder. You can plug that in to the side of the truck, and the engine will just fire up whenever it needs to increase the charge on the battery and give you, well, power. And what's nice is you can just plug this into your home. And I mean, here in Vancouver, the last few days, a lot of people have been running out of power. If they had this, they can actually run their entire house from the generator that's built in. Okay, maybe not the entire house, but they can run everything that they really need. There was an article that I read that there's a man in Texas that ran his entire home from, well, an F-150 just like this. And I think that's brilliant. But let's go to the inside. All right, the cabin of the F-150. Usually I'll start in the back, but I actually have all my car seats back there right now, so I can't actually sit in it. But what I can tell you is there's plenty of room, headroom, legroom, it's all great. And under the floor, there's a lockable storage, optional of course, but you can put all your things in there and the seats are heated. It's actually a really nice place to be. There's more than enough legroom, so you can really stretch out back there. And if you are using this as your family vehicle, well, I do have 3 car seats in the back and, well, they fit amazing in here. The vehicle is so wide that I don't have any problems. The one thing I would note is the upper anchor is a little different than most cars. It's a loop tether, so you kind of have to play around with that a little bit. Do take a look at your owner's manual when you're installing car seats into this vehicle. But as for the front seats, well, they're very comfortable up here. These aren't the limited seats, so they don't have the massaging features, and they also don't go all the way back where you're able to basically sleep on them. But they are heated and cooled, and I think they're absolutely fine for what you get here. In front, pretty typical Ford steering wheel. It actually has a pretty nice grip on it. It's a good size. And behind that, a beautiful digital cluster. This digital cluster shows me everything I need, and I love the animations. Some may say the animations are just a bit too much because it shows you so much information during those transition pages, but I think it's beautiful. It really is a very good system. There isn't a heads-up display, which honestly, totally fine because of that beautiful cluster, of course. And then the main infotainment, it's a 12-inch unit. It's, well, Sync 4, which is actually the latest from Ford, and it works really, really well. I actually had no problems with Sync 3 neither. It's just a good system. There's wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, it has all the things that you need. And what I like about this system, it's just a good combination between physical buttons as well as what you can do on the touchscreen. Because underneath, I mean, I still have my dedicated volume tuning and climate control. I have all the buttons that I need. The knobs are nice and big. Even if I have gloves on, I'm able to use them. And everything else, well, there's a touchscreen. And above that, there's buttons as well. It's a really, really good layout, and I do applaud them for that. Underneath, I do have my shifter, and with the press of a button, it can disappear. Honestly, I don't think this was all that necessary. Ford has a rotary shift knob. I mean, they use it in the new Mustang. So they could have just implemented that, and it would have been absolutely fine. And it would have been recessed, and you're still able to get this, well, fold-out work table on here. But the reason that they put this is because it's a truck. You can't put a dinky little rotary shifter. It just won't feel like a truck should. So that's why they put this. It's absolutely cool, and I don't mind it. But it is just another thing that's a little bit of a gimmick, I would say. But for what it's worth, I think it's cool. All right, before we go for a drive, I just want to talk about the powertrain options. Ford gives you 6 different engine options. 5 of those are V6s, and 1 of them is a V8. I absolutely love the 5-liter V8, don't get me wrong, but since gas prices is at $1.65 Canadian a liter, which is basically $5 US a gallon, well, this PowerBoost makes a whole lot more sense. It's rated for 9.8 liters per 100 kilometers in the city and 9.7 on the highway. And that's 24 miles per gallon Freedom units for all my American friends. As temps are pretty cold here, I'm running the remote start, so I'm not really getting those numbers. I'm averaging around 11 liters per 100 kilometers, and honestly, that's not bad. 21.4 miles per gallon for a truck that weighs 5,500 pounds, I think that's more than acceptable. But let's get on the road here and feel this PowerBoost, because, well, it is a hybrid. But it doesn't drive like a Prius, because, I mean, let's be honest, the Prius is more focused on economy than anything else. This PowerBoost is a combination of both economy as well as just the amount of power that you get under the hood. Because the PowerBoost makes a total of 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque. That's 20 horsepower shy of the Raptor, but 60 pound-feet more, which means a 0 to 60 is about 5.3 seconds, which honestly, it's quite brisk. It's just as quick as the SRT-10 Viper truck. And that was one of the most hot rod trucks of its day. Of course, it's not supposed to be some hot rod truck. I mean, it can be, but it's not designed for it. But when you do need that power, you just put that foot down. It does wake up, and it's plenty quick. It does take a second for it to downshift. I mean, that's 10 gears, right? So it does take a little bit for it to downshift and get going. But once it does, it hauls. It really does. But when you're cruising like this, for example, right now, I'm very, very light on the throttle, it tells me it's at 0 RPM, which means it's on full electric or EV mode. And that's terrific. And that's how it's able to get those astonishing fuel economy numbers. In terms of how it drives, honestly, it drives pretty good. It's not as good as some of the Chevys because it's known in the industry the Chevys just have a better steering feel, and it doesn't ride as well as the Rams because, I mean, that has air suspension. But I think it's a good compromise because of, just the way that it feels. I don't think it's any worse than it should be. And let's be honest, if it's, the best-selling pickup, it has to be doing something right. This steering is good enough for people that's buying a truck. A lot of journalists say it's like, it's not the best steering feel. How much steering feel do you need in a truck? You're not going drag racing, or actually even drag racing, you don't need steering feel, but you're not going head-to-head road racing in this. Not. You're just driving along the city, and in the city or out on the highway is perfectly fine. And the suspension, with absolutely no load on here, yes, it's a little bit bouncy and you feel it kind of jiggling a little bit, but once you put a little bit of weight in the back, it settles in quite nicely. And that's with all trucks. A lot of journalists test them without weight and they say, the ride is horrible and this and that. I don't think that's, a good measurement of what the truck can actually do. And speaking of better, the hybrid technology. It's actually quite seamless in this. I drove the Explorer, which I know is a completely different hybrid powertrain, but it's still Ford technology. Comparing that to this is quite a bit better. It's more seamless. You don't feel it when the engine cuts in, and you don't feel it when it's transitioning. So sometimes what you do feel is the electrical motor, when it's trying to go between the gears, it's a little bit more rough than if it was the engine power itself. But honestly, it's actually very, very smooth to drive this vehicle. Just in and out of town here, just pulling up to traffic. You barely feel when it's transitioning from electrical power to that 3.5 liter EcoBoost. And that's definitely a very positive point, because not every manufacturer has that seamless integration between the two powertrains. That is actually very, very hard to get. Ford has done really good work here. Overall, this PowerBoost F-150 makes a whole lot of sense. It's a really, really good engine, and I can see exactly why it's taking over the diesel. In terms of fuel economy numbers, it's very, very similar, and this makes more power and can haul and tow more. So realistically, it makes more sense to keep this rather than the diesel. I'm not saying that diesel is a bad call. In my opinion, a good diesel can still outlast a gasoline motor because they generally are built more tough. But, if you take a look at FCA, the Ram diesel, they had a lot of problems with them. And because of that, a lot of people are kind of shying away from the diesel architecture itself. And this PowerBoost, the EcoBoost motor is proven. It's been a few iterations already. It's a very good engine. The technology that's built in, it's phenomenal. And with that, and just this amazing interior, there's really nothing that I can say that it's kind of bad or negative about the F-150. And that's why it's the leading pickup that you can buy. It just makes sense. In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Like the video if you do. Subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll catch you next time in something a little bit potentially smaller. Take care, guys.